I do want to say there is people trying to make the party better, but at the same time, understandably, certain people have walked away from the party as a whole because there's not a lot of movement.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
We got a caller on the line. Caller from, well, it's only one caller. I don't see the area code right now. But what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey,
256
I'm
area
Robert
code.
Lewis Hunter.
Oh, yeah, Robert.
Yeah, I'm Robert.
Yeah, Robert, good to hear from you. We've got about 10 minutes here, and I think you were wanting to call in about the Alabama Democratic Party and some of the stuff that we had been talking about before the break was over, particularly our conversation with the chair of the Alabama Democratic Conference, Joe Reed. And for those who don't know, the Alabama Democratic Conference is the minority caucus within the Alabama Democratic Party. It's the black caucus, and because something like, 70-80% of Democrats in Alabama are black, the Alabama Democratic Conference is more or less the kind of leader of the Alabama Democratic Party, right? So Joe Reed is more or less the de facto president of the Alabama Democrats. And so Robert, you've been involved in the Alabama Democratic Party for some time. And so, yeah, I'm interested in your reaction to that interview and some of your thoughts that you think folks ought to know.
Thank you for taking my call. Honestly, frustrating is the reaction for the most part. I will say one of the things that pops up when people have the conversation or when the vice chair of minority affairs brings up that African Americans make up a gigantic part of the Democratic Party, that is 100% true. But it also is an indication that things are not going well if you have nearly 70% of the party being African American and you're unable to have meetings because you can't reach a 40% threshold. That shows a gigantic gap of instability and unreliability in that particular leadership. Also, as a person who's been a part of the Democratic Party, the statewide party since 2019, I've been a member for over 6 years and can tell you, point blank, there are plenty of black members of the party that do not like the way the leadership is set up currently, in part because it feels and looks like one person is in charge and they're only using the tools at their disposal to stay in charge. I mean, one of the things I felt frustrated about in the interview was you're getting on the Valley Labor Report and you don't have a conversation over current strikes you're trying to support, over potential labor laws you'd like to see changed in Alabama. Even small things like that. And I wouldn't consider them small by comparison to where we are because labor is our voice when it comes to the world of capitalism because money moves the world. But it should have been like at least a notation to bring up. I don't know, man. And there was another caller that was having not a reaction, but was bringing up the same points. I do want to say there is people trying to make the party better, but at the same time, understandably, certain people have walked away from the party as a whole because there's not a lot of movement.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
Right. And when you say walked away from the party, it's worth just underscoring because, we're on a lot of different radio stations. We're on a black station, we're on community stations, and we're also on conservative stations. So it's just worth understanding for the audience, particularly on our conservative stations. When you say they walked away from the party, you don't mean that's not a reference to the Brandon Straka kind of hashtag walk away from the Democrats into the Republican Party and just become rank and file Republicans. That's not what's going on. But there are some people in the state that are interested in maybe potentially pursuing pro-worker independent politics, kind of vis-a-vis like a Dan Osborne in Nebraska.
Yeah, sorry, you are correct. Let me make that 100% clear. Many people have walked away, not because the party is too progressive, but lack thereof. It's not exactly progressive when your de facto leader is the one trying to push and successfully at one point remove all of the diversity caucuses, is the one who is unwilling to look into expanding the disabled. That's not the guy that's bastion of 100% progressive policies.
Right. And so, Robert, I guess what are you thinking? I have always been more of the mind to bore from within, as William Z. Foster recommended with respect to the labor movement. Although, interestingly, he was always he was generally more inclined to bore from within from the labor movement, reform our unions, make them better, more progressive, more democratic, etc., more militant. But he was also like a third party guy. He was like, no, we can't work with the Democrats. I've never, frankly, really understood that, never really squared those circles. I've always been kind of more inclined to say, look, for people who want more progressive politics, more pro-worker politics, the way that they exist right now, we have a two-party system, and it's just very difficult to get something outside of that. And so I've always been inclined, to the extent that I do electoral politics. I don't often, right? But to the extent that I do, I've typically, kind of leaned towards working within the Democratic Party and stuff like that, as opposed to kind of pursuing independent or third party politics. And so I'm curious, kind of what your assessment is of the landscape in Alabama, and what you think makes the most sense, based on generally kind of the landscape and also our conversation with Joe Reed.
So what I would say is, and this is sad to say, it depends on your level of enthusiasm and ability to deal with what can only be described as the runaround. So if you are someone that sincerely believes that you have the internal strength to deal with listening and participating in day-to-day conversations like the interview you had with Joe Reed, I would suggest you get involved with the Democratic Party at the statewide level. Try to get in touch with your SDC member. Every single representative House district has 2 of them. If you are someone who's gone beyond the point of not dealing with the internals of the Democratic Party, at the statewide level, I would then suggest the fact that there are multiple county parties that are more active and more willing to actually take critique and help those who are in need, both mutual aid-wise and in political sense. And if you're just 100% beyond that, I would then suggest, yes, there are local third parties that are doing actions in and around the community that would love your help, with North Alabama DSA, Birmingham DSA, and 2 other forming DSAs, if I remember correctly, that are in the lower Alabama range.
Montgomery and Mobile is where you're thinking of there. That there are some chapters that are forming. So, Robert, I really appreciate you taking the time to call in and give us your thoughts. I think this is an important topic here in Alabama, and will continue to be over the next several years. So we'll be continuing the conversation.
All right. Thank you very much. You have a good one.
Yep. You too.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.